Hi, I'm Phoebe of Phoebe's Pure Food, and welcome to Pure Food for Thought. I'm so glad you joined us today. I have a very special guest with me today, Elizabeth Stoudt. If you have never been to her bakery and cheese cave, she's located in Adamstown. Is it off of 32?
It's on Route 272.
272. And she's just behind the Stout's Brewery. And her hours are Thursdays through Sundays. And you host a wonderful breakfast on Sunday mornings as well.
Thank you.
So I'm so glad you joined us because I love your bread and I love your cheese. So I love everything that you do.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of curious, Elizabeth, if our listeners could learn something from your story, what would it be?
Well, I guess I would like people to know that we are a family that enjoys fermentation.
Family that enjoys fermentation.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. Oh, it's probably
Everybody doesn't?
Yeah, right. Did it start with the beer, or did it move to the bread, or
Actually,
what
over 50
inspired you?
years ago, my father opened a restaurant, and with the restaurant, there was a lot of interest in heritage, and so he started a beer festival. And with the beer festival, you need to have good product. So then there was the beer line. So it started with the brewery, and I came into the scene about 18 years ago because they were making bread. And I had been making bread myself. I started when I was about 18. Almost every day of my life, I've made bread.
Who taught you?
I taught myself.
Really? Okay.
And my friends. I had a really great community of people, and they were willing to absolutely eat and try anything that I made. And it was, I had children. Well, I actually had children a couple years later, but I had just, I just had the ability to just learn hands-on. I did take classes, but much later, maybe about 15 years later. So.
Well, that's kind of interesting. And for 50 years, your family's been in the business of fermentation.
Yeah,
essentially.
or food.
Food or fermentation.
Food, yes.
How does it happen that as a daughter in the family, like, did you go to school originally to study culinary arts? Like,
Not
how
at
did you
all.
find your place as a daughter in the family?
I really think it was simply, I remember coming home and, you know, of course, when you work in a family business, you tend to start really young, and I wouldn't say that you don't have a choice, but you just jump right into it. And whether it's wearing dirndls and all kinds of, whatever it is that, that the family's doing, you just become a part of that, and it becomes your norm. And sometimes when you step out of it and look into other people's lives, you're like, oh, you guys don't do that. Like, everything is in a very large way in everything that we do. So that was just kind of normal. And one time I was home and I was like, my goodness, my dad, he's making bread. Like, it was just a connection where I and the family on a really intimate level connected with something, it's just that I had found myself. And it was just like, wow. And my parents were so open and willing to just let me step right into that place. And, the bakery was already something my father was building, but he just let me step right into that and really let it become mine. And from that, I did that for a long time. And I did whatever else we needed to as a family. Like, I worked the different banquets in the restaurant when we, I did whatever and learned a lot of different tools. Really kind of found myself in that. But the bread was just this wonderful organic form of fermentation that I just felt like I was born knowing a little bit how to do. It was just very familiar and was very supported by my family with that. And when I turned 40, I thought I might like to look at the other half of my life, hoping that it's a longer life, and do something else that went with it. And that's when I started looking into the cheese. And again, found a super supported family that was like, if you want to learn how to do cheese, great, do that. And I went to the Vermont Institute I'm talking a lot, not
no,
a good
it's
interview.
very fascinating. Thing. I know, because I'm curious about this whole journey. Like, how does that happen? And especially when you turned 40, was it like a moment?
It was.
Where you
It was
thought,
a moment. I turned
more?
40, and I had worked really hard to. I have 2 boys. They're 18 and 21 now. So, and I'm almost 45. So it's been about 5 years, and I wanted to create a life for myself, not just about working really hard in the family business or for my family, something that I would really enjoy doing for a long period of time. Because honestly, when you are working banquets and working restaurant hours and then waking up early to be a baker and working in the antique mall, like I wore a lot of hats and I knew that my energy level could not sustain. So I just thought, cheese. I love cheese. One of my jobs in the restaurant was choosing cheeses, artisanal cheeses from, first it was I could choose them from everywhere. And my mother has just such a great knowledge and fantastic palate, obviously with her beers and what she's created in the brewery. But she taught me so much about cheese. And all of my sisters, they love that too. So I was able to just start pulling cheeses and bringing them into our menu.
Cheeses that you selected.
That
yes,
what a neat job. Like such a tiny little drop in the bucket job. But it was a seed for the rest of for this part of my life, because I got to taste and learn. And I was so excited when I learned about a different producer, and I really got to know their story, and then I could bring it back and like try to tell our customers in the restaurant. Well, the story like took me, of course the cheeses are so wonderful coming from Europe, but I became really, really interested in the stories of the cheeses that are being made in the United States.
And that's something fascinating, I think, that you do when you come to the restaurant, that there's a history behind what you're eating. And when you taste your cheese, it's nice to go to someone who's producing your product and you can ask questions. Well, what does this flavor come from? Well,
it's really important, especially like we're not farmers, so we're not producing the milk. A lot of cheesemakers that I talked to, that's what they were doing, which, that's amazing to be able to do both parts of the story. I have a vat that's from like the beer industry that goes on my pickup truck, and I can go to almost any farm and pick up milk to make cheese with.
So there's a connection between you and the farmer,
literally. Literally. I'm actually waiting until, if they're in the process of milking, I'll wait till they finish to be able to load my vat. I'm, first thing in the morning before I even ever start making cheese, I am looking in the door at the cows, I have that joy, and the farmer's telling me if any of the calves were born that morning or the night before. So I've, it's really neat for, it would be wonderful to be a part of the whole process of figuring out the feed and everything. But I've found farmers that I absolutely trust. They're 7 miles away.
When you learn to make something like cheese, I think it's probably not much different than making bread, because I don't find bread easy to make. I think cheese is probably difficult to make. Do you think you learned, did you learn from your mistakes? Like, did you make awful, messy mistakes, or do you think you learned from successes? Like, did you taste really wonderful cheese in selecting cheese for the Stout's brewery restaurant and kind of pattern yourself? And
okay,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a few questions there. I'll try to answer as quickly as I can. Think about this a second. I have learned a lot about the different processes of it. I suspect that I will be learning for the rest of my life, which is why this was a very good choice as a career. But when we have a mistake, it's never very terrible, because, there's a lot of training behind what I've learned how to do. It's just a lot of experimentation. And we will use it. We'll use our product all different ways. So, oh my goodness, can you help redirect me a tiny bit?
Well, no, I'm just thinking, like, when you talk about, especially as a woman in business, that you first of all grew up in a family business, and maybe your family had expectations of where you should be, but maybe they didn't. But they encouraged you as you grew. They found what you love to do, and they gave you the space to grow. right?
Yes.
But then when you turned, like when you came into your 40s after starting a successful business doing the bread baking, which you take to Philadelphia, like you take it into the other big cities, you gave yourself the room to experiment like further, and most people get stuck.
Yeah, it's I wanted to create a whole new world that is endless, which is what I feel like for me cheese is. And I think it's really important when you reach that middle point in your life to just look to the future, and as scary as it is, to just find some kind of confidence in what maybe your skill sets are that you may have learned, and just create, like, I think of the cheese almost like creating a garden. So I've planted a lot of seeds, and I do have some goals, but I don't have a lot of expectations at the end of the goal.
Right.
Like, I am looking I have an idea of where I would like the cheese to be, and sometimes it seems to be right on target, and sometimes it really doesn't seem to be meeting those goal points. And I'm very kind to myself at this point, and maybe all that mothering that I did. But I just allow myself the opportunity to see what the cheese will become. And I feel like as an industry in the whole, I feel like that is what's happening. And I have phenomenal customers that seem to be very interested in what the journey is going to be and being a part of it, and real interested in that.
Seems like you have very supportive fans and customers. And when you're shopping in there,
which creates a kind of integrity that you want to have. You want to make sure that you're able to give that.
Okay, one last quick question. How do you define success for you, especially as a woman in business?
That I can sit here with you and tell you that I've planted a garden, and that it's a really good choice. So I'm very happy. So
and be kind to yourself. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's really nice to be kind to yourself.
Okay. I think it's wonderful. I mean, I'm so glad you stopped by, and it's interesting to hear about the family history and fermentation. And it's just that you took it in a different way.
Yeah, and it's really nice to have been given the gift of being supported. So, and thank you everybody who comes out and visits us at the market.
Yes. So make sure to stop in on a Sunday at the very least.
Sunday's a great day too, because the antique market's there, and there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I'm always there. So you can ask me more questions. Obviously, I like to talk.
Definitely about the cheese and the breads. You would not miss out, I promise. It's one of my favorite places to go for locally baked breads and fabulous cheeses. So thanks for joining us. And please be sure to subscribe to the Pure Food for Thought, and leave us some comments and feedback. Let us know what you think. And we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us.